Hey chess lovers, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is dhairyabagga and welcome back after a month. So basically, I was out of action due to some personal reasons. Now that I feel again happy and I'm back in kind of a bit of form as well with chess, so I thought I'll share a quick game with you guys. Now, this game I played yesterday, it is actually one of the most aggressive games that I remember myself playing that. So yeah, I look forward to sharing this game with you guys. And if you do enjoy it, please do subscribe to the channel. I am not committing to daily content now, but I have done that for the last 1 year, which was incredibly tough and challenging as well. So there's a lot of content on the channel that you can always gaze through. Please do subscribe, do join the channel as well if you feel like. And yeah, let's not waste for the time and start off with the content of this one. So I'll try to share you this game, which actually began with I was playing as white here, and I start off with d4. My opponent responds with b5, trying to be aggressive from the beginning. It can be said, trying to do something not very common. b5 generally we don't see. Standard response to d4 is probably e5. You can play d5 or you can play e4 as well. But here my opponent starts off with b5. I played knight f3. I can actually proceed the pawn as well, occupy more space in the center, which will hinder the knight's development as well. But I thought, let me delay that and firstly develop my further pieces as well. And after knight comes out, a6 is played. So generally, this pawn, when played in the early, it is actually a bullet tactic which people generally use, because you play b5, once you are like playing, not developing the knight and playing, let's say e3, opponent will put the bishop here. You get the free pawn, but then your rook can be in trouble. So yes, that is kind of a trap that opponent was looking forward to, which didn't work out because I developed the knight. So that's why a6 was played, which is very passive for the opening. So if your trap doesn't work out with b5, then it's a bad opening altogether, which did happen for my opponent as well. In this version, I played bishop to g5. My idea again is to firstly develop the dark square bishop and then play e3, closing the diagonal of the bishop, having a good pyramid in the center. But what it also does, generally in the London, what we play is bishop to f4, eyeing this diagonal towards c7. You can also then place your knight on maybe c3, and then if allowed, go from d5 and attack this weakness again. But in this position, it's unlikely that opponent will not play d5. So d5 will come up very soon, and then I cannot really acquire any of these squares to attack the pawn on c7. So I thought, let me put my bishop on g5, which allows me to grab more space towards the queen's diagonal. Now it's not possible for opponent to play e6 because the opponent loses the queen straight away. So this hinders the development of the opponent. And now if even knight f6 comes, I can capture and spoil the pawn structure in the third or fourth move of the game, which is very nice. In this position, opponent responds with h6, trying to kick the bishop backwards. And I was happy doing it by bishop h4. I try to retain the same diagonal most cases. And this generally helps as well, because then opponent starts pushing the further pawn to g5. Now, h6 and then g5 make sure that your pawns on the king side are already weak. And if you see, already a6 and b5 are also played. So you have basically opened up from both the sides, did nothing in the center, let opponent develop a couple of pieces. So this is a pathetic opening, I would say. So bishop comes back to g3 now, and in this position, opponent plays d6. Not much options, trying to develop the light square bishop. Maybe I went with e3, just playing solid, not being aggressive as of now. Bishop comes to f5, and now I asked for a bishop trade via d3. Now, it's important when you are giving for a piece for a trade or not. Now, the idea here was my light square bishop is kind of passive, because I have developed the knight on f3. My pawn is still there on g2, and bishop is also there, so I cannot push my pawn forward and develop my bishop from g2. That's very unlikely, and that will be like 2-3 steps of moves of an order to develop my bishop from g2. So rather, I thought this is the only piece my opponent has developed so far. Why not take it out of the action? So I played bishop on to d3. Yes, there was an option of e2 as well, bishop to e2. But again, bishop isn't doing there anything, and plus my opponent has developed the only piece. Let's trade it. Opponent denies the trade, plays queen to d7, so that if I take now, opponent can take back with the queen and get the queen active. So I didn't take. Now I played e4 instead. I saw this opportunity of taking this bishop backwards, expanding from the center as well. Yes, my king is in the center, can be dangerous, but look, my pieces, minor pieces are out already. It will take me one move to castle. Plus, this bishop is reinforced. The pawn is reinforced with the bishop as well. If required, I can put the queen or the knight into action as well to defend the pawn on e4. So it was not a bad move at all. Here, bishop goes to now g4, trying to save itself, and then of course pin the knight as well. In this position, I played h3, simply attacking the bishop, asking for a trade. Again, remove the active pieces for the opponent. Opponent takes back the bishop to h5. And now I develop the other knight because I want to remove this pin. Because pin can be annoying as well. I want to move my knight at some point of time. So knight to d2 makes sure that there will be no pawn structure loss if I move my queen next. So I connected both the knights. This way, all my minor pieces are developed as well. It's move number 10. Ideally, I should be castled as well by now, but looking at the position, it's not bad at all because you have gained the space in the center. You have developed the minor pieces. Meanwhile, opponent's development is pathetic, to be honest, because three of the minor pieces are not going anywhere. The one developed light square bishop isn't doing much as well. In this position, knight to f6 is played, and now I played c3 first. I was a bit confused here. I actually thought of initially playing maybe a move like pawn to e5. After opponent takes, I can take back with the bishop and try to pin, but then opponent will develop as well, and there is nothing I'm gaining out of it. So rather, I thought I'll support the pawn on d4 by playing c3 so that pawn structure is solid. Opponent now goes for c5. Again, I don't know why the opponent was not developing the minor pieces first, but just pushing the pawns, which can be a good strategy sometimes, but not in this case because even if the opponent does take the pawn, it doesn't impact me. I can take back with the knight or the pawn. Anything is fine, so that I have central pawn still remaining. And also there is no threats of the dark squared bishop coming from this diagonal giving a check or something because the bishop is quite blocked already. So I thought of taking the pawn out of the game. Opponent did take back, and now I have to be careful. My bishop is under attack. This is something which can be simply missed out as well because you just traded off pawns. You might be looking forward to putting your king onto safety, and you forget that the bishop is hanging. It's no more defended because you place the knight on d2. So it's important to keep track of what flow of the game is happening. So after whatever move you make, try to understand what are the consequences of it. So I took the pawn, opponent does take, and now what happens? The queen's file is opened up and is attacking the bishop, which needs to be defended now. To defend the bishop, I went to e2. Now again, I can go to c2 as well, but that hinders the development of my queen, which ideally wanted either on c2 or maybe on b3. But now b3 is not possible because the opponent will play c4 for sure, trying to gain more space, and then I cannot maneuver my queen from b2, mostly b3. So in this position, I can also take the bishop backwards, but then I'm undeveloping my pieces, and the rook will also be useless standing on a1. So the thought was to just bring back the bishop onto c4, onto e2. Opponent plays c4. I go with now queen to c2, developing a queen. Now the idea is to castle on the queen side so that rook will be centralized, attacking the rook, attacking the queen, and then I can probably just give a discovered attack on the queen by taking a pawn with the knight. Opponent goes back with the bishop onto g6, and now if you see here, there are two attackers on the central pawn, and there are two defenders, so I need not worry right now. But once the third attacker comes in, then is the time to consider this as an option because I cannot move the pawn forward. I lose my queen. So threats were there. I went with knight to e5. Now my idea is, Yes, the opponent will save the queen, but I can take the bishop out of the game, which is a permanent threat to my queen if I'm accidentally move pawn forward as well. So also I want to expand in the center. Opponent's king is also in the center. I am one move away from castling either side of the board, so I can switch the game as per me wherever I want to. So I played knight to f5 here, e5 here. Opponent goes with queen to e6, and then I took the bishop out, so that now the pawn structure is also spoiled. And once it is done, now was the time to play e5. Now what e5 does is also it is defended with the bishop first of all, so queen cannot take. It attacks the knight, and wherever the knight go, I have some ideas of putting the bishop onto f3 maybe, or the knight onto e4 as well, and trying to gain more and more space. I have the idea of castling, as I told earlier as well. So trying to be more aggressive here. Knight comes to d5, and now I placed a bishop onto g4, trying to attack the queen. Now the idea is, if the queen goes somewhere else, I can probably just go ahead with my knight development on a better square. Knight activity will be improved. But in this position, opponent goes with queen to f7, which allows me another pawn move forward to e6. Now, what e6 does is leaves very little choice for the opponent, which is backwards only if the opponent is not careful actually, and tries to come up onto, let's say, f6. Then there's a nice move, which is bishop. There was a good move. Yeah, there was a move, knight to e4, which attacks the queen as well. So I had thought of, if what if the queen comes up, do I have a counter attack? Because yes, the pawn is defended. I can put the dark square bishop, but it's not defending any. It's not being defended as of now. So the best move in that situation could have been knight to e4, pressurizing further. And the idea is to even exploit this weakness of g6 later on. But here my opponent plays queen to f6, and then I played knight to e4 as planned, and now queen goes back. So now queen had the only square, basically g7. Anywhere else, queen is going to fall badly. And now I castle and long side castle, because I want to put my rook on the open file straight away. I'm not being attacked, and this is the best way I can get my both rooks connected suddenly, which will add more defense to the central pawn eventually. Also, I am attacking the knight right now, which is not defended. Knight now had to go to f4. Not much options there, and I can take, but do I need to take? Was the question, because I don't need to. My bishop is very active, so I don't want to. Plus, there's a threat of knight taking g2. So what I did was bishop to f3, backwards defending my pawn. Also, I had one more thought here. The bishop is eyeing the rook's diagonal. So whenever I move the knight next, and let's say give a check, I get to have the rook as well. So that was the plan behind putting the bishop onto f3 as well. Opponent takes the pawn happily, which knight could have, like, it's a free pawn now. The knight can take, and here comes knight giving a check onto d6. Now opponent has to take, which does happen, and I win the rook. And now there are more problems as well. So the problems next are: a, I can take this for sure. Opponent only has one defender. uh, I cannot give a check straight away because the knight is defending. But once I do take it, I have a rook as well taking the pawn, which will pressurize the knight as well, and I can get other rook active as well suddenly, and opponent will feel crushed immediately. So bishop to e7, a rescue operation has begun from the opponent, trying to castle on the king side as soon as possible. I played rook h to e1 here. My idea was to grab the knight, which is not defended. So it gets defended with the queen on f7. Again, I don't have to worry at all in this game. There's no attack being done on my side, but I'm the attacker here. So I just took the pawn with the bishop now, because once the opponent does castle, my bishop will not be active. Remember, I told you that the right time to trade is also very important. My bishop was active throughout the game, so I never traded off. But now, because I know that castling will happen and my bishop will not be active, so I castled. Opponent, I took the pawn and tried to exchange. Opponent does castle. I take the bishop. Opponent takes back with the queen, and now my bishop is free. And the best place to put it is d5, because again I am attacking a knight, which is defended once only with the queen. I have the rook and the bishop attacking it right now, so it gets defended with the other rook. But I have all the time in the world. I did a rook lift, and I'm about to double my rooks. Opponent tries to get another knight into the action so that knight can come on to c5 and double defend the knight, but doesn't help. I double up. Opponent also comes in, and now I take. Opponent takes back with the rook. I take the rook. Opponent takes back with the knight. Again, a bad move, because all this while, opponent forgot about one active piece which was always eyeing the king's diagonal, which is my queen. And now queen takes the pawn with a check, which also means if you try to save with the queen, I can simply take the knight first with the rook, and I'm a piece up. I'm pawn up as well already. If the king just moves away, I can still take the knight. There's nothing stopping it. I'll try to trade off the queens then. If not, then I can grab these pawns as well. So everything is hanging from here on. So it was move number 33 when I took the pawn with a check, open designs. So I hope it was instructive. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel, and I shall bring more content very regularly from here on. I'll try to at least. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. Bye bye.